Yeah, you're right. Although I was hoping to find some words of wisdom from my mother, if I stop and think about it, her words may not be the advice that I need to hear right at this moment. Everyone's life journey is different. Traveler, you've visited many lands and met many people, so I'm sure you've run into situations where some advice wasn't exactly suitable for the situation at hand. Ah, I just got an idea though. If I want to rekindle the creative passion that I had before, instead of trying to unlock an old notebook, why don't I take a walk around the parts of town that had changed my life? What do you think? I'm glad you agree. Then let's start by taking a quick stroll around the academia. Of all the places in the academia, I remember this one most. When my studies got busy, I used to pull all-nighters here trying to finish my blueprints. Who doesn't miss their time at the academia? Life was a lot simpler then, and we all had far less troubles. I created many designs that I thought were beautiful in the House of Dana. I drew whatever came to mind, since I didn't have to care about budget constraints or turning them into reality. If I had to give a reason, it'd probably be because I like the ambiance here. The academia also had a rule that allowed scholars to annotate any physical books they came across. As a result, the books here are chock full of scholars' wisdom across many generations. Oh, here, this is a great example. This book, History of Ancient Sumeru Architecture, contains some analysis that I did many years ago. Huh? Why is Alhatham's handwriting also in here? When did he ever read this book? I guess it's probably from when we worked on that research project together. Anyway, he probably never cared to tell you this, but the House of Dana is where Alhatham and I first met. I came here to do my homework, and saw him sitting by himself next to that row of bookshelves. A group of Haravatat scholars were chatting near him, but he looked as if he was too lazy to join them. There was a pretty stark difference between him and all the rest of them. It was my fault for feeling bad for him. I thought he must have gotten into some kind of trouble and went over to ask if he needed anything, not realizing that...
Not realizing that you were in fact the one in a whole heap of trouble?
Alhatham? Why are you here?
The House of Dana is a public space. Anyone can come here, no?
But shouldn't you be at the records room at this hour? You're not here to watch me make a fool of myself, are you?
You think I would derive amusement from watching you fall into depression over your life's various troubles? If that's the case, then I suppose I must have been entertaining myself for years. I came here to pick up a few files. If your voice hadn't managed to get through my soundproof earpieces, I probably wouldn't have noticed you.
All right, I admit I was probably overreacting just now. Probably not when he's right here with us. As his senior, I shouldn't try to tarnish his reputation.
There was nothing embarrassing or shameful about it. When I was still a student at the academia, I once collaborated with Kaveh on a research project. A collaboration is usually beneficial for all parties, but due to issues with our personalities, we ended up going our separate ways before completing the project. We had a number of differences, and they remain unresolved even today. But there's no point going into that right now. The more important question is, why are you at the House of Dana?
As a senior scholar, isn't it my responsibility to offer my friend a quick tour and explanation of the academia's architecture?
I see. Then let me guess. Your next stop will be the pavilions around Razan Garden? Our famed architect sure loves showing off that corner to all his friends. Oh, and Kaveh, A lot of the books you annotated have been moved to the innermost section of that bookshelf over there. You'll have to dig them out yourself if you need to find them.
Huh? But why would you know that? Don't tell me you finally had an epiphany and realized that there's great virtue in respecting your elder's work.
Sure, if that will give you some self-confidence. Leave any words of thanks you may have to the ex-Grand Conservator. The last time he was here, he was complaining that he had received reports from current students. The main grievance being that the annotations are too long and difficult to read. As a result, the books you annotated have been moved to the back shelves.
What? But all of my annotations were extremely important. Instead of reporting me, they should have been thanking me for my service. The notes that I took, they couldn't have asked for a better analysis of those books. Okay, just you wait. I'm going to fix this right now. I'll dig all the books out and return them to the proper shelves.
Oh, we'll wait. Anyway, you were about to say he's feeling a bit down? Put through the ringer. What an interesting phrase. I assume he used those exact words himself? He probably did suffer quite a bit, that's true. He always spends a lot of time editing his proposals, with the goal of satisfying as many of the client's preferences as possible. But the satisfaction of one client will not translate to general satisfaction with his work. Many problems in life can only be solved by a fundamental change of attitude. As the leading genius of Ksharawar, Kaveh should have both the right and the confidence to reject any unreasonable demands. There are plenty of architects in Sumeru who are inferior to him in skill, yet far more irascible in temperament. What's more, there are plenty of people who look up to such individuals as paragons of staying true to one's principles. Clearly, his predicament is inevitable, since he holds other people's feelings as more important than his own. Of course, each person is different, and we should respect the paths that they have chosen for themselves. Admonitions will serve no purpose. People tend to succumb to familiar pitfalls, and this is especially true for those who believe it's their duty to carry more burdens on their shoulders.
Looks like you were having an enjoyable chat while I was gone. Were you talking about me by any chance?
What do you think?
What else is there to talk about? Surely no one would be interested in talking about the files that you were browsing through earlier. Anyway, you should take a look at this. Look at this comment on page 82. Dear Kaveh, thank you so much for annotating this book in such detail. It was a great help to me. See that? Now that's how a student should treat their seniors.
And it looks like you're already in a much better mood now. It really doesn't take much to make you happy, huh?
Me happy? I'm mocking that retired blockhead for being so full of himself. He understands nothing about the true beauty of architecture. When I can find some time, I'll have a serious talk with him about making sure these books are put where they belong.
Why don't you just move all the books yourself? It's not like he hasn't cursed you out before. What was that nickname he gave you while you were in the academia? The Urchin of Ksharawar? Kaveh had a habit of scribbling and writing in all kinds of books.
Hey! You didn't need to bring that up. At least not when I'm still standing here. Oh, actually, I also found a really old sketch in one of the books over there. See? Doesn't it remind you of something? Huh? Don't tell me even you don't get it.
Don't ask me. This is the time you specifically put aside to brag about yourself. Feel free to hoard all the spotlight you want.
You... In that case, allow me to explain. Although this sketch is a little abstract, you can plainly see from the road plans that this was an original concept for the expansion of Port Ormos.
We can also plainly see that the designer was a huge fan of this project. It's the project he loves to talk about the most, second to the Palace of Alcazarzaray.
If I don't keep bringing up the neat projects that I've done, how would anyone know that I was the one who did them in the first place? There shouldn't be any complaints about Port Ormos. If I remember correctly, the construction process was very smooth, everything was made ready ahead of time, and there were very few safety concerns.
There are indeed no records of any complaints about this project. A most impressive achievement.
See? What did I tell you? Come on, let's take a stroll through Port Ormos next. I'll tell you all about the designs I made for the place.
No need. It's almost time to clock out for the day, and I don't intend on bringing any unfinished work home.
Suit yourself. It's not like you know how to appreciate artistry anyway. Let's go, traveler. I'll take you to Port Ormos. Port Ormos. No, I didn't design any one specific building. Most of my work here concerned structural renovation. Port Ormos had already existed since I was still a young child. It wasn't as large as it is now, though. It only came to its current size after a sizable expansion. I was part of that project. The arch bridge over there, for example, that was one of my designs. When I was first tasked with the project, I decided to reference the growth patterns of nearby trees to split Port Ormos into 2 levels. My goal was to improve the overall utilization of space. We ran into a lot of issues during construction, but thankfully, we were still able to achieve the original vision. Residents can now behold all the ships entering and leaving the harbor from the vantage point of the bridge, while visitors can recognize the site of Port Ormos from a long ways away. I was still young and new to the trade back then. I could hardly believe that an idea in my head could become reality and remain in the world for many years to come. The true cornerstone of the creative process. The point about the design that will be ultimately used to judge its true worth. It was the first time that it became crystal clear in my mind. Once built, a building will continue to stand. Countless people will see it, and countless more will step inside it. Its final worth, whether it's good or bad, will be assessed by the countless generations of people that interact with the building during their lives. You think so? I'm glad to hear that. But even with this project, I still had one small regret. My budget was tight, and I was unable to use the higher quality timber I had originally intended for the design. I knew that some concessions on aesthetics would be needed as soon as I agreed to a proposal that prioritized the practical functions of the project. Us creative types know better than anyone that most projects cannot be completed without a few regrets. Even the Palace of Alcazarzare was not perfect. Yeah, you're right. I should learn to look toward future opportunities and believe that any regrets I have can be overcome in time. We've spent long enough here. There's still one last place I want to go, but it's a little far. Would you be interested in a quick trip to the desert? Great. Most of my projects over the last few years have had something to do with the desert, partially because there's a special place there that I often visit. This is a rare opportunity, so why don't you come along and see it for yourself? If you ever feel down, maybe you'll be able to go there and feel better too. Who would have thought that so many primal constructs could have congregated here while I was gone? We won't be able to sit and talk peacefully with these guys around. Let's clear the area.
Clouds high. The birds call!
I'm going in! Busted!
Isn't this place great? I often come here to clear my mind when I'm dealing with a difficult situation. You know what I mean. Everyone finds themselves in frustrating situations once in a while. Just take me as an example. My family life got shaken up quite a bit when I was young. I struggled in school, and I got into a huge pile of debt building the Palace of Alcazarzaray. Although Alhaitham thinks that it's because of my personality that I continue to live in the shadow of the past, I think it's also just a part of life. Plus, if I look back, I've honestly had my fair share of good luck as well. You could probably say I've followed in the path of my mother. Like her, I've gained a name for myself as an architect, built something that's seen as my magnum opus, and found many projects that others have entrusted to me to finish. Life is too boring when you live with no enthusiasm and passion. Only those who believe in the inherent meaning of it can capture the small nuances of everyday life and turn them into inspiration for beautiful designs. Of course, I will concede that loving something also means taking it to heart. So to an extent, caring is also a source of pain. If I didn't love my work, I wouldn't be so torn up about it all the time. But still, isn't this place beautiful? Despite the erosion from the winds and changing seasons, you can still perceive its past beauty and glory. With different landforms come different architectural styles. The desert's history has left it with few records regarding its buildings, so I often visit the desert to investigate things in person. The sight here has moved me ever since the first time I laid my eyes on it. I told myself that one day, I would also be able to create buildings that move others. My pain will one day fade into nothing just as I reach the end of my life. But buildings are different. They are far more valuable than most materialistic things, and far more durable than human flesh. As long as there remain souls in the world who can decipher the meaning behind them, they will also have acknowledged me across the vast stream of time. If you were to ask me what art is, that would be my answer. You think so? But I feel I've always been like this. Remember that question I brought up before? The one about whether I should see art as a divine gift of inspiration from the gods, or as a product of my own existential struggle? I still haven't found an answer to that yet. But if art wasn't inherently paradoxical and enigmatic, then people probably wouldn't be drawn to it. Those who pursue art will be unable to avoid the pain that it naturally brings. Will often be floating on cloud 9 one second and sinking in a mire the next. I'll try gathering my thoughts again once I've found a way to define art in the first place. In any case, thank you so much for listening to everything I had to say.